Okay, it being 3 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And if we could please rise and join in on the Pledge of Allegiance at this point. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would ask if we have any public comment on the agenda items. Okay, none being heard. I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes from the meeting of, glasses.
I can make a motion for the
September
approval
10th.
of the October 8th minutes from 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Clear? How do you?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Wardy.
Wardy?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to the approval of bills. I think everyone has probably had time to take a look at those. Are there any questions or any discussions on the total amount that is due for the approval of the bills? If not, could I have a motion to approve the bills? Financials.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Clear. Mrs. Clear, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wardy?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Minutes approved, or bills approved, excuse me. Moving on to the demolition project phase 1, the release of retainage. I would ask Mr. Waldinger if he could give a summary of that for us.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Following the completion of the removal of the buildings in demolition phase 1 and then the reseeding of the properties, we have just been waiting for the properties to obtain 70% vegetative coverage, which is required under our NPDES, our pollution control system permit through the DEP. As of a week and a half ago, Gene Clement, the Millcreek Township's environmental systems engineer, was able to verify that we have received 70% coverage on those lots. And so with that being complete, then I am here to recommend that we release the 10% that we were holding back on the contract to make sure that that was established. That 10% would be paid to Empire Excavation and Demolition for invoice number 797 in the amount of $24,200, and that would complete the phase 1 contract. So it's my recommendation that that be approved.
Thank you. Can we have a recommendation or vote on this retainage of 10% in the amount of $24,200 to be paid to Empire?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mrs. Clear, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wardy? How do you?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. Moving on to our next agenda item, historical consultant report. I'm going to throw that back to Mr. Waldinger to give us a summary, and I believe we've all been provided with a copy of that and have had time to review it as a board.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, hopefully everybody had a chance to review it. You were provided with a copy via email, and there is a hard copy on the dais for each of you if you need it. I should also note that there are hard copies on the back table along with the agenda. If anyone would like a hard copy of the report, it is available there. So prior to its purchases along West 8th Street, the authority utilized publicly available resources to see if any of the properties proposed for acquisition were of a historic nature. Following a check of the State Historic Preservation Office's PA Share system and review of Preservation Erie's Erie Buildings website, none of the properties were identified as to have historic resources, and the authority completed the purchases. In the months following the acquisition, the authority was made aware by concerned members of the community that the former Grasshopper building, located at 2818 West 8th Street, may have historic significance and that the building warranted further investigation. In July of this year, the authority engaged Clio Consulting to prepare an historic research survey of 2818 West A Street, and today we are releasing the consultant's extensive report of findings and conclusion. This 24-page report is available for review and download at the authority's website, which is www.millcreekgeneralauthority.org, and it is available right now. The report was conducted by the principal of Clio Consulting, Angelique Bamberg. Ms. Bamberg is an historic preservation expert who was the City of Pittsburgh's historic preservation planner for several years and formerly served on the State Historic Preservation Board. Through extensive research and review of materials provided by the authority, including all information that was shared with us by private individuals, Ms. Bamberg evaluated the history and significance of the structure. Her work also included an in-person examination of the building and its site. Her report reveals the methodology used in the study, background of the history of Millcreek Township, context of existing schools from the period both locally and statewide, and her conclusion based on this extensive research. The report finds that the building cannot be associated with significant themes in Millcreek's history, its education system, or its architectural heritage. Subsequent uses of the building, whether residential or commercial, have compromised the character of the structure by altering, removing, or covering over its architectural features. Further, the building is not a candidate for restoration because its original design is not known. The last sentence of the report, found at the bottom of page 23, is as follows. Ultimately, this study concludes that previous loss of architectural integrity and lack of documentation of the building's early history as a school do not support a case for physical preservation on the grounds of historical significance. While the report coincides with the research that was conducted before the purchases, I believe that commissioning the study was an extremely valuable and worthwhile effort. I would like to thank those that came forward with their concerns and shared research and information with the authority. Once these issues were raised, ensuring that the structure was thoroughly vetted in its historic context was necessary and important work. The information derived from Ms. Bamberg's research identifies several good examples of one-room schoolhouses that still exist in Millcreek, a few of which I drive by on a regular basis and did not even realize were still in existence. The exercise exposed parts of Millcreek's history that are not often brought to light, and the passionate resident participation affirms that we have a vibrant and engaged community. Moving on to my recommendation, given the results of the report, I would recommend as Executive Director that we move forward with removal of the building at 2818 West A Street. And I am asking that the board authorize me to begin putting together a bid package for the removal of this structure.
Thank you. Any discussion or any questions from the board for Mr. Waldinger or anyone? If not, can I have a recommendation to move? Yes, Mr.
I will.
Wardy.
Yeah.
Recommendation to move forward with a bid package for demolition of the building. Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you. And Mrs. Claire, how do you vote? Yes. Mr. Wardy?
Sorry, yes.
You were yelling before. Now you're being... Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Alette?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. Moving on to communications. Any treasure report from Mrs.
I don't have
Page?
anything today.
Okay, thank you. Executive Director report or communications?
Yes, I just have a couple of other items to report on. The first is the Phase 2 demolition project. Work should be underway soon. I've met a couple times with the contractor. They have submitted all of the proper paperwork. They're waiting to complete a couple other jobs, and they should begin soon. As a reminder to the board, the contract calls for completion of removal of the structure by February 28th of 2025, and so hopefully they'll get started soon in order to meet that deadline. And the only other item to report is that I'm currently working on a 2025 budget for the authority. I will present a draft to the board as soon as it's completed and I'm able to review with Ms. Page I'll share that out with everyone so that we can discuss for hopeful adoption in December.
Thank you very much. Consultant communications?
Good afternoon. I'm Amy Murdoch with Altair Consulting Group. Just wanted to give you all an update on what we've been working on in the past 30 days. Now, last month we facilitated a monthly action plan with the executive director and the real estate committee, participated with the authority members in a meeting related to development of key assets in the broader Gateway District, recommended opportunities for structuring partnerships with mission-aligned organizations and businesses in the district, prepared for and participated in a ROCP compliance meeting with the Office of the Budget Consultant for the state, corresponded and discussed the West Erie Plaza assessment data with the executive director related to the development finance analysis that we've been working on. We advised the executive director on items required to receive a grant contract from the state Office of the Budget, and again, that's for a $3.5 million RACP award that the township received for this project. We analyzed and updated assessment data shared on October 23rd for the West Erie Plaza development and identified key trends in reassessment methodology which impact this project's ability to employ creative development finance practices. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Amy? Okay, thank you. Moving on, Attorney Shaw, you have any solicitors?
Nothing. Nothing to report on my end. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, are there any citizens to be heard? Looks like you're it, Dennis.
So, a unique perspective, I think. I grew up living in a one-room schoolhouse. I'm glad, and I love historical buildings. I'm glad to see this one go, though. I see hundreds of people here supporting it. Sorry, guys. I think, from day one, it was a white elephant. I think it's a shame, though, you had to spend all this extra money to prove a building that had to go, should go. But I'm glad to see it's going to go. On another subject, I don't know how much the authority is separate from the township and how much you plan on working in unison, but with the sale of the golf course and the money going into the park and recreation, kind of my axe to grind here, I guess. Maybe you guys should help maybe buy Kmart for maybe a future community center. Maybe help facilitate some of the working in unison. I don't know if you guys are able to do that or not. Maybe you guys can get around getting, because the last I heard it was taxes are paid and everything else and on that, but it's still, a blight. But maybe you guys can help work with them and work together in tandem and maybe get, turn a negative into a positive asset for the community. Just put that thought into you guys maybe. I don't know if I'm out in left field or not. Is that a possibility? Does it?
I think we all drive past that old Kmart and think, what could we do with that? All of us do. Yeah.
Because it's an open floor plan. I could see some pickleball courts in there. It's a building that's not being utilized. It already has a parking lot. I know the Park and Rec Department would love a community center. They're going to have some funding with the sale of the golf course. You guys, I don't know, is that even in your purview or thoughts? Or I know you're focused on 8th Street right now, but eventually it is going to come to an end.
If I may, I do believe that the charter of the authority was crafted in mind that it could participate in other projects outside of 8th Street. 8th Street was the first, but there are, and Attorney Shaw could probably speak better to how the charter was established, but there are other projects and things that could happen, whether they're redevelopment, stormwater related. And so in the future, I do think that that could be possible, that the authority could be used if the appropriate circumstance were to arise. But that would have to be kind of on a case-by-case basis.
The reason because I see, things do take a while. I realize you got to vote, and looking, and, so I thought maybe if the thought process was started now, that maybe you wouldn't be caught flat-footed or accused of nefarious backroom deals like 8th Street was accused of being. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis.
Anyone else? Not hearing anyone else. Next executive session, I believe we're going to go into executive session, or?
There is a need, there are a couple of property-related issues to discuss.
I would suggest that we adjourn the meeting, because I don't believe any decisions will be made coming out of executive session, so that, we can adjourn the meeting so the citizens can move on, and then we can have executive session immediately following.
Okay. So can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved?
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Wardy, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Clear? Mr. Wardy?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, everyone.